Welcome, I'm Jean-Michel Guéral and we are going to see in this video the installation process of Microfocus Structured Data Manager. I have here downloaded the binaries for 6.65, the latest version at the time of the recording of this video, and I'm going to start the installation on this machine. I have here a Windows 2016 machine. So the first thing to mention is that always start this process with run as administrator. That's important to have administrator rights to install SDM, otherwise you may have some troubles. So first part is to unpack this executable, which is automatically unpacking when you run it. It will take a couple of seconds and then we'll start the installation. The installation wizard proposed me several steps and we will go through them now. The first thing is to choose the installation folder. I always take the default here. You have the possibility to change this path, but you have to take care about the variables for the path, the OBT home variable that you may have to change before the installation. So read carefully the installation guide if you change this parameter here. Then we have the possibility to put that in the menu, in Windows menus. Let's me go back to create the icon for all the users. That's something interesting here, to have it for all the users on my server. Okay, pre-installation check. We are going to start the installation of SDM now. And we'll see that just after that, we will have to install the database that will contain all the information, the configuration information, and we will install for that a PostgreSQL database. You have the possibility also to connect it to another database already installed, but here I've chosen to use this embedded database, PostgreSQL, from this package. So SDM is installed, and now it proposes me to install this PostgreSQL database. So I will check the install PostgreSQL checkbox and click next so that we can proceed with this installation. It's part of the package and will propose you this installation without any further downloading. It also installs automatically some Visual C++ packages coming with the installation kit as well that are prerequisites, and if they are not installed, they will be installed automatically. So we have this PostgreSQL database setup. Let me click next here, and I will again use the installation folder by default. This one, PostgreSQL 12. I will install everything here and take all the default for the data as well, and that will be in the same folder. I will type here a password. That's the password to connect to this database. Of course, that's something to keep in mind, to remember. The port, keep the default, 5432. This is the port to connect to this SQL database, this PostgreSQL database. And we will again use the default for these parameters here. That's a simple installation of PostgreSQL. I don't make it complex because it's just a database that will contain all the information that is used for the configuration of SDM. All right, let's wait a couple of minutes to proceed with this installation. it's completed. I will not start the stack builder and finish. We are ready now to start the web console of SDM. So the web console is the core engine, the core, not the core engine, the core component that will allow you to access to the UI and allow you to launch all the things, set the parameters. So we will start everything from here. That's pretty convenient. I will show you then how to do it if you don't start it from here. So you have to also make sure that you remember all these things here. This is where you have to connect to if you do not launch this web console from this setup wizard. So you have to remember this address here. So let's click done. It will start the console. It will proceed for maybe a couple of minutes. You will have to wait a little while to load all the libraries and start the processes. And at the end, we will see a specific message that I will show, and this will show us that the server is started. As I have checked the two option boxes to start both the web server and the web UI, I got automatically these two windows that are open. On one side, the server is started, and this is the message that you will see when the server is started. So once you have this message, you know that the server is started. And on the other side, we have the web console with this localhost 8080 web console that is pop up as well. You have the possibility to launch these from the menu. So if you didn't check the boxes, you should have a menu with Structure Data Manager. You will get Start Web Console that will start for you this window, and you have the possibility to run a web browser to go to this address in order to connect to the console. So the first time I connect to the console, I will need to configure the repository, so the place where I want to store all the configuration in the PostgreSQL database that we just installed. So let's start with this configuration and install this repository of configuration. So I will put it in this PostgreSQL database. I have the possibility to put it in a different folder, but a different type of database. But we now propose this PostgreSQL database as a default and a recommended choice for this configuration. My user will be by default Postgres. I will type the password that I put when I did the installation. And my host is the host that contains this PostgreSQL database. This is localhost for me, the same place as the core component of SDM. The port 5432. I use the default database name PostgreSQL. That's the default as well. Let's click next. We will have to create a user for this environment. So I will put a password. Again, of course, remember the password that you put. I will put here the same one. Obviously, you may want to have a different one. We also need to define an encryption key. This is something used when we compile or we generate the projects. So this encryption key is important because it allows to secure the configuration that we are doing inside the SDM. So again, keep in mind this encryption key. That's a string that you have to type when you deploy your projects in Structured Data Manager. All right, so now this is the definition of the user that will allow us to connect to this interface. By default, we need an admin user, and I will give it a password. I can type a real name, that's my administrator, and description, email if necessary, and so on. And we will see later how we can also add other users. So we can have multiple users. This is the first one, the main one that we will keep in that we will have in our system, but we will be able to create other ones. So here, a summary of our parameters. Click Finish to create this database. So it will generate the database inside my PostgreSQL server and load it with all the parameters, default parameters that I've put. This will take a couple of seconds and we'll be ready to start. So the configuration was deployed in the database, but the service is trying to restart and couldn't manage to do it. So what I will do, I will restart manually as suggested the console, and we will come back again in this window. So here I will just do Control C to shut it down and close the window, and I will come back to this menu. Structured Data Manager, start the web console. It's, by the way, something that you can install as a service, a Windows service. Here it's just coming as a script, but that can be deployed as service as well. I like to have it as a script because it gives you the logs and what happens immediately, but in production environment we would like to have it as a service. So let's wait for a couple of minutes to get this server started again, and we'll come back on the UI. After a couple of minutes, the server is started. I see server startup in a certain amount of milliseconds. Let's come back to this web console here and get back to the interface and see how this goes this time. All right, this time that works, and we have connected to our web console. This is the login screen. I have the possibility to enter my username and password. So that's the initial user, this admin that we have configured when configuring SDM during the installation process. I will click the login button and get in. So we are now inside our web interface for SDM. We see a message here that we only have one user, and that's always better to have a second one, or at least an email address where you can send your user a message in case he lost his password, so that we have always someone that is allowed to connect to the interface. All right, so let's pause it here, and we will see in another video how we get from here configuration of all these components, the environment, the settings, and the users.